Good afternoon, guys and gals. It's the 25th of December. It is the traditional Christmas. Merry Christmas to those of you who celebrate Christmas. God Yule to those of my ancestry, where our ancestors drove our ships to new lands. If you celebrate Kwanzaa or Festivus or Sol Invictus or whatever you celebrate, God love you. Have a good holiday. This is Joe, your host, Life with Josef. Now I'm going to pip in here a picture that says no Christmas trees. And a couple of years ago, my bro Cubby that I worked with at the paper asked me to tell the Christmas tree story, and I'm going to do it now. So Cubby, here you go. But before I tell the gist, I got to give the background. The background is that over time at the paper, we started to hire a more diverse workforce. As the county, Santa Clara County became more diverse, our readership became more diverse, religiously and ethnically. A lot of people from Vietnam and India and China and such. Not everybody celebrates the traditional Western holidays. And at the same time, we as a company realized, at least our HR did, the risk of not having diversity training. It's not for the employees, it's for the company so they can help protect themselves against lawsuits. Don't think it's anything but that, even though a lot of people I work with certainly needed it. Anyway, there were two incidences of calendars. One was Hank in the returns room, where in single copy we brought back our yesterday's unsold papers for credit for the run, for the job. And then one of the supervisor gals came out and made him take his rigid tool calendar down. Now it's a bikini tool calendar, so okay, it no longer meets the Mercury's, harassment policy of having inappropriate pictures put up in the workplace. Okay. A guy that we worked with at home delivery was from Texas, and he was a big Dallas Cowboys fan, not Tex, but in home delivery, John C. And as I understand it, though, don't hold me to this, the same supervisor either made him take it down or tore it down. Now, I remember that she literally damaged his property in tearing it down. But again, my memory's oatmeal sometimes, and don't hold me to this. So, okay, I'm the guy, and this is a union environment, so they just can't fire me. But I'm the guy that, okay, tell me what the ground rules are, and we're all going to play by them. So putting stuff up on the wall that may be culturally insensitive, offensive, or gender harassing, we can't do anymore. I'm good with this. So, now I will point out that when I was in single copy, and this had happened, one of the editions we printed in the morning, over the masthead, a little blurb for the article inside, had a picture of a gal in a bikini. And I made the point that, hey, if this is sexually harassing in the workplace, why isn't it sexually harassing in my workplace and the workplace of everybody in single copy and home delivery? And they didn't know what to do. They were stuck. I said, you have defined this picture, and I held up the paper, as unacceptable in the workplace, but it's not in my workplace. Will you explain this, please? And they were like stunned, and I said, well, it's a First Amendment issue. And I said, no, it's not. I said, the First Amendment only applies to the government censoring your speech. So no, don't lie to me. So, I've already made a point about this. So one year they put up, wreath and holly and a big ass Christmas tree. Now, did the tree bother me? No, of course it didn't. I don't give a shit. What bothered me about the tree is it was a live tree. And I told the boss, Miles, I said, if you'd have gotten a plastic tree, I probably wouldn't be doing this, Miles, but none of you give a shit. So I made such a stink that the tree is offensive, and all the wreath and holly, and I went over the pagan symbolism of all of it, and I also mentioned that somewhere in the Bible, and I'll look it up and I'll text it right here, kind of sort of says something like, you can't cut trees out of the forest in celebration or something. I'll get the right quote and I'll put it in. So I made a really big stink about this. Is it because I hate Christmas? Of course not. It's because if it's an office rule, we can be formally disciplined for violating office rules like the dress code, even if it's not specifically in the contract. This is all past practice. So the Teamsters that were really angry with me, I'm saying, no, you're not understanding this. We have to hold their feet to the fire. They have to obey office rules just like we do. Because if we don't hold them to it, they're going to hold us to it, up to and including formal discipline. So I got some guys to see it like that, but some were really angry with me for a long time. But in our office in single copy, I got rid of the Christmas tree. And I'm not ashamed about it. Why? Because I'm holding these sons of bitches to their own goddamn rules. Now, I go out to transportation. And this is the year before I became dispatcher. And Robert M., who him and I didn't always see eye to eye, and it was a happy day when he got fired for allegedly changing time cards one time too many, but in our little office where we clocked in and we had some run cubbies for the directions on certain runs or, driving jobs. And there were 2 rabbit-worn offices in there, of which at the time one was his, but later in time I used one when I dispatched. Anyway, there was like a 3-foot inside tree on a tabletop tree, and the tree had rollers on it. And I look at this and I think, okay, you motherfuckers. And I unplug the tree and I roll the tree into an adjoining locker room that used to be the tire shop office, because we had since leased out the fleet and we didn't have a tire shop anymore. So the next day it's back in there and I'm thinking, okay. So we're running pre-run, which starts about 7, and we're running 3 presses and everyone's there, and we're all pretty busy, and it's dark by now. It is December, and nobody's watching me. Nobody sees I've gone to the bathroom. So I walk into the little office, I unplug the tree, I roll it through the locker room, and I roll it out the side door, and it's dark, so the camera doesn't pick up on who it is exactly, or even if the camera worked at the time. And we had a couple of 6-wheel step vans, like a big bread truck, but heavier duty. And I picked up the tree and the table and I set it in the back of the step van and I shut the door. Well, it turns out that step van, one of the single copy managers came from Sunnyvale, our Sunnyvale branch, and he got in the step van. It was his step van, his assigned step van. He looks at the back, he says, "Hey, shit, we got a free tree." And he drives out the tree and the table out to Sunnyvale, and he puts it up in the office. So now Sunnyvale has a little Christmas tree on a table. Well, Robert M., and my God, if you ever watch this, you think I'm going to friend you on Facebook, Robert? You can fuck yourself. Anyway, first off, everybody knew it was me. I didn't tell anybody. I mean, I told my friends and I told my wife, and I certainly put it on the blog eventually, but I told nobody at the Mercury News ever, until right now. I guess I did tell my brother Phil later, but so Robert was on an absolute witch hunt. He was going to fire me for stealing company property. So when he asked everybody on the shift, did you see Joe steal the Christmas tree? Well, nobody saw me steal the Christmas tree, but the Christmas tree wasn't stolen. It was always on Mercury News property controlled by Mercury News employees. So how could it possibly meet the definition or the elements of theft? Come on, Robert, you're an idiot. So he finally asked me, and this is where the ADHD really helps me. He said, Joe, did you steal the Christmas tree? I didn't lie to him. No, I didn't steal the Christmas tree. Because I didn't add to it. Sometimes even I know when to shut up. So, no, he could never pin the Christmas tree on me. My God, he knew it was me. Everybody knew it was me. All of you, Cubby, Todd, Jimmy B, Chuck B, anybody else. You were right. It was me. Of course it was. Who the hell else would it be? So, Robert, first off, the guys at Sunnyvale never brought the tree back. And so, the next year, I'm now dispatcher. And now those of you know that Phil was our boss, and Phil and I were and are close. I was the coach's son, which it has its good and its bad. And Phil remains my brother to this day, so in full disclosure, I have to tell you that. So it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm in there early for some reason. And Phil and I are standing kind of on the steps outside of the side entrance to the circulation offices where the crosswalk is over to the transportation building and the garage. And I'm watching 3 people drag in this 9.5-foot Christmas tree that they could hardly fit through the door, and they had to bow the sumbitch down about 4 feet to get it through the door. When they put it in the office, it was so tall it bent up on the ceiling. And then they chained it down with a chain like a chain to an anchor on a boat. And Phil looked at me and all he said was, "Don't fuck with the tree." And I looked at him giggling and said, "Now come on, Phil. Do you really think that I stole the Christmas? Well, I didn't steal the tree, but he knew it too. He knew it was me because all you who know me know how I am. I hold people's feet to the fire. There's none of this, well, it's good for thee and not for me. No, it's either good for everybody or good for nobody. So, in 12 minutes and 38 seconds here, to get to the point, did I steal the tree? No, the tree was never stolen. Did I move the tree and get rid of the tree in a sense that it ended up at the Sunnyvale branch? Absolutely I did. So there you go, Mercury guys and everyone else. And let me tell you one more story about how idiotic my employers were. I'm loading pre-run. This is probably before I became dispatcher. And I'm loading Sunday mains. And even then, we would pull out a copy and proof it and check it, and we'd read it too, obviously. Well, they had some stories about deadbeat parents and child support. And one of the headlines on the story was, "Welsher to work." Now, those of you may not quite get this. Calling somebody a Welsher means that you don't pay your bills, and it's demeaning towards people of Welsh ancestry from Wales. So I look at this and I think, oh my God, somewhere down the line, this is gonna come in handy. And I put it in my backpack, I don't say a word. About 6 months later, the last of us stragglers are ordered into a meeting, a harassment meeting or something. The only guy who didn't have to go was Rex B. And he was able to say, my religious beliefs mandate I don't have to deal with this. And they didn't fight him. So God love you, Rex. Good for you, brother. So I'm sitting in there, and the two management guys given to talk. One's Dave L. Long-term there, him and I, knew each other. And his ancestry is from Mexico. And the gal was from Vietnam. She was an immigrant from Vietnam. And this is important. So they start with this, words you gotta watch and what you say And I wait because, I'm just waiting for them to dig a deeper hole. And then I say, well, excuse me, but that's not true in practice. And I pull out the paper and I say, I'm of Welsh ancestry, which I'm not, but why ruin a good story? I said, so the Mercury News has no problem printing 327,908 copies of a newspaper with a headline that demeans people from Wales like me. And they were like, oh, just didn't have a word to say. And then a guy sitting right next to me, Scott W. And Scott, if you ever watch this, bro, I'm sorry I acted like an asshole at the end. It's all on me. I did you dirty, and I'm sorry. But Scott, God love him, pipes up, hey, I'm of Welsh ancestry too. So he started to get really indignant. And then God love Scott. We all knew this, but the wife of the Vietnamese gal was a San Jose PD captain involved in some really scandal that we even had in the paper. And they had the same last name. And Scott, God love you, Scott, he pipes up and says, yeah, isn't your husband Captain so-and-so from the San Jose PD? And isn't he involved in ABCD scandal? And the meeting ended right there. It was one of the most crowning glories I ever had at the paper. And bluntly, we never, ever, ever, once we were sold anyway, once Knight Ridder broke up, we didn't have any of that stuff again. Hell, half the people were laid off. So anyway, that's the Christmas tree story with a little bit of background. This is 16 plus minutes. It's a pretty good story. All I ever wanted was leave me alone. Tell me what you want me to do. Give me the tools and training to do it. And leave me alone. So somehow we had to sit through a bunch of goddamn bullshit that I called him out on more than once. So there you go. There's the Christmas tree story. So this is the end of this 17-minute babble of Storytime with Josef. This is Joe, your host, on Christmas Day, Sol Invictus, God Yule, Happy Solstice, and whatever else y'all celebrate, Festivus included. Get to the grievance bowl, or the airing of grievances. Enjoy your day. Peace be with you. Thank you for watching.